The following is a Live the Dream Media production.
Hey guys, we are back with another episode of Local Marana. A shout out to my co-host and co-founder David Samarano. Spent a little time with the family up in the Queen Creek area. But I've got a capable pinch hitter sitting in. Looky here. Look who stuck around. Mr. Christopher DeSimone.
Absolutely untrue.
Yeah. Hey, there's a full half body shot. You get the 8x10 glossy during the wake up show.
Absolutely.
Fun time.
I'm ready for my close up, Mr. DeMille.
I actually asked CJ on the way out, are we going to have to start paying royalties to the Puzo family for all the quotes of the Godfather that we do around here? And we got an omerta out of him, by the way, on that. Like,
we did.
Good times. That was a good show. Great show.
He's always fun, and his knowledge in that world is so high.
Yeah, you guys are good together.
We have the rapport.
Yeah. I mean, you're going to keep him on a regular, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, I'd like to maybe talk to him one day about doing a food show.
Yeah.
Right.
It seems like a natural, doesn't it?
He'd be great doing it by himself.
Seems like a natural.
So he knows a few people with restaurants.
A couple.
So I think it's a possibility. We're going to talk about it.
And we got to meet his son, Rocco. Rocco and I hung out for a while.
Just to fulfill the whole stereotype we were running.
Yeah.
It's my son, Rocco.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Hey, so David was going to be out of town. We knew that going in. And so, I asked you to stick around. We'd talk some stuff. But we actually have quite a bit of stuff to talk about regarding the town of Marana and the area from just the last 7 days.
Well, you lead it. I'm here.
Well, a week ago today, we were right now, almost on the hour, we were in the state capitol.
Yeah.
We got invited up by Senator Vince Leach.
Yes.
We were in the reception area by this time. We did have a great little breakfast.
Irma's
right around the corner. Great little breakfast. Irma is throwing it down up there. I can't remember the exact address, but just north of the Capitol.
A block north of the Capitol. Yeah. Very nice lady,
Great food.
She was just hanging out with her was just as fun as eating the food.
Yeah. And there was a little bit of activity taking place at our table because of the Oro Valley Church of the Nazarene situation was taking place. And our good friend, Pastor Chris Collins, was in touch with the boys at the table. And you know what? We'll talk about that. We've talked about that some. We'll talk about it some more. But let's just say that the Oro Valley Church of the Nazarene got the vote that they were looking for.
Oh yeah,
shouldn't have happened. That's an episode for another day. But
you pay attention and you adjust to what's going on and you show up.
Yeah, and that's what happened.
My buddy Bill number 2 was in Wilcox, and there was like one of these calendars. It was called Bumfuzzled. And it's like all these fun country kind of sayings, right? And one of them was, those who show up make the rules.
100%.
Right?
100%.
So that's why I was so amazed. That's not making it, but it's a participatory government, right? Mm-hmm. So for 2 meetings in a row to show up with 400 to 500 people is huge. And then, again, pray for Joyce Jones Ivy on the council when she literally poo-pooed them for basically showing up at meetings.
There was like a gas filled the room. Did she really say that?
I don't know. I don't know what she was thinking.
Yeah, but it worked out well.
Yep.
But at this point, 168 hours ago, we were at the state capitol with a memorial or honoring. I'm not sure. Resolution was read into the state.
It's true.
For our late friend Ed Honey.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
And it was a beautiful presentation. And again, a shout out to Vince Leach for the invite. You'll have him probably next week. You'll have him on. Let's make sure. Hey, and Mr. Galen, we owe you some pictures. We're not ignoring you. I promise by today or tomorrow I'll get you some pictures up there. So
Galen's the guy who just kind of organizes stuff at the state senate, and so he was kind of organized the reception and moving people over to there, and he definitely had the anal retentive organizational attitude, which is needed.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, he reached out. Hey, have you got pictures? And I'm like, give me a few days.
Oh, Clint takes pictures, man.
Yeah. You know how many pictures I've got in this bad boy?
You mean total in the
total
whole
in the camera or in the phone?
5,500. Too low.
Way too low.
17,000.
You're still too low.
You got a problem, bro.
25,000. I pay for extra. They're like your children. I may need that one. I'm not a hoarder, but on my phone, I'm kind of a hoarder.
This is like Wang and Caddyshack walking around taking pictures of everything. And he says, "Hey, Wang, it's just the parking lot."
Yeah. Well, I've got a few of those. One final thought. What was the movie? And this is about Oro Valley, the town council in Oro Valley. And I will say, Mayor Joe stepped up big time, huge. Way to go, Mayor. Well, Mayor. What's the movie that said, "Why are we here"? What's that movie? I guess Mark Van Patten. That's a question.
Mark Van Buren.
Mark Van Buren.
What are the Van Pattens?
Mark Van Patten had a birthday. Him and a late shout out to Mark and his bride. They both share the same birthday.
He's not related to Dick Van Patten?
No.
Oh.
No.
Okay, that's a shame.
There's a movie though that says, "Why are we here?"
There's a few movies I think they say, they say that.
Okay, and then moving forward, the following day, we went over to the Marana State of the Town.
Yep.
Sponsored by the Marana Chamber of Commerce. Yay, Chamber of Commerce. Great job.
They did a nice job. It was a very emotional day. Again, back to not just remembering Ed, but this gentleman, Brad DeSimone, had beautiful things to say about Ed in the video, but then at the same time, our good friend Mayor John Post, kind of one of his mentors was Brad DeSimone, and when he gave Brad, and we give out cool appreciation words in Marana, we give you a branding iron.
Mm-hmm.
We just don't get the typical crappy acrylic.
Yeah.
And so when he was giving the branding iron to Brad, you could see that was an emotional moment too. So there were lots of tears of joy and missing people and appreciation. And
yet excitement for the future.
Oh, yeah.
Because we know a lot of people. Well, you and I are Oro Valley residents. There was a bunch of Oro Valley residents sitting next to us.
Right.
And Tammy and I, as we left there, we're like, man, I hope the Oro Valley folks are digging what Marana is doing because we need to be more in step with that.
So people in Oro Valley, not a lot, but a few, give me crap because I'm so high on Marana.
Mm-hmm.
We're more active with the Marana Chamber of Commerce than we are with the Oro Valley Chamber of Commerce.
And that's not personal. That's just because that's the way it works.
We also have so many hours in a day, right? But the problem with Oro Valley and why I keep kind of trumpeting the Marana thing is Oro Valley is stagnant.
And has been for a long time.
Right. Where
Actually, since I've been there.
Marana always has a more forward dynamic to it. Part of it is their geographic location, right? They got a lot of blank land out there, but also they can move towards Pinal County as part of their growth and not move further south towards the pit that's Pima County.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But to me, the biggest difference between the two, and geographically, they're not the same. They're just not the same. I mean, they border each other, but it's two different animals when it comes to geographic location.
Oro Valley is a little locked.
Yep.
But there's a ways to get around that. But
it's leadership.
We're stagnant.
It's leadership. That's why, and we'll be talking a lot more about that moving forward, about 26.
We're still worrying about the idea that we've spent this much drama on, let me do my math, 29 subtracted from 30, 7 feet.
Yeah.
7 lousy feet on a sanctuary.
Yeah.
We spent time, money,
2 years on that.
Yeah, I mean,
2 years on just that. Yeah, come on.
That's a joke.
Please work with me.
But that's the thing, right? So
that's leadership, though, Chris. Yeah. That's why we have, and we're anybody that knows us knows what I'm referencing. It's also the
perception of the electeds on who they think got them there.
Yeah.
Right? And so I think a few of them think that the no-growthers got them there.
Yeah. Well, they kind of did.
So, but if they got you there, what did they get you to do?
Nothing.
Where are you at?
No, nothing. So, and the cool thing about what you and I are aware of and the people we know, there's a lot of people that are not happy with that. I mean, I think we believe it's the majority, correct? We have to make some kind of and it has to start at the ballot box.
Well, I mean, one of the eternal battles that we've had with Wake Up, trying to be a show that's, because there's all these broken things going on, right? Is local politics are not as sexy as yelling about Joe Biden or Donald Trump.
But we all know all politics are local.
Well, we keep saying,
and the older I get, the more I realize that.
Well, it's true, but we keep saying it. But the average bear who is the couple raising a family. Yeah. Where are they? Where do they get their news?
Yeah, in little sound bites, right? Or from their neighbor, or where do they get their news? But that's where I would say sound bites or from their neighbor.
The stupid thing.
Yeah, and that.
Right. So if you just kind of, even if you do that stupid thing where you go off to your, it's like you scroll over to your Android feed, whatever they're feeding you.
Yeah.
That's what they do.
Yeah.
They're going, oh, and it's based on crap you click.
Yep. And remember what George Carlin said about that? It's still controlled by corporate America. Sure. They're left and right, and they're telling you exactly what they want you to, in little, what's the term you use, little drips? What? The endorphin drips. Here we go. Here.
Endorphin pop is what I would say.
Well,
they want your pop.
Yeah, boom. Here's a sentence to get you all riled up, or a picture of somebody.
If you lean left, you see anything about Donald Trump, they're going to make it. They're still going on Hitler and fascism. You go, ooh, Hitler and fascism.
Yeah, brown shirts. Let's go.
Right, and after a while, talking about what's going on with the quality of your park or road in Oro Valley or Marana.
Yep,
that's not making it.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't even make the local news half the time.
We were talking yesterday to John Post, and we were like, how do we, and I asked the question, how do we get more people in the room? We gotta sexy it up a little bit or something. Give them, look at this.
Oh,
a cameo.
Lord.
Cameo. Sit down.
Any.
Do you guys know each other?
Get more people in the room.
You guys know each other?
Any hobo can just walk into this room and get on the air with us. So
you guys know each other?
This is great. Hello, sir.
Anton Chism.
Christopher DeSimone. Nice to meet you.
Show
too.
these good folks.
My Lord.
Oh yeah. Come on.
Hold on. We're gonna get a little. We're gonna be like the Doublemint twins here for a second.
Hey. I must confess, Chris, I kind of set this up a little bit.
That's cool.
Can you see that?
I do have to leave in 10 minutes.
Okay.
Just let everyone know that.
He's gonna piggyback off your 10.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
She's gonna reset the cameras for you.
I heard.
That's okay.
think we're back. Okay, Anton, we got this bearded teenager. If you could see the height difference between these two gentlemen and myself, it's like staggering.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
look, I'm pretty short. Chris, you look your stature is very profound.
And I think you're a little taller than him. If I
look like Hulk Hogan compared to. I'm sitting here with Peter Dinklage.
I did get a text yesterday about the tiny dancing that's happening here coming up. So I'm just saying, I'm representing for the little people right now. That's what I'm doing.
You guys do know each other, though. We cleared that up.
Each
okay.
other. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Welcome aboard.
It was a running joke.
Yeah.
Clint's like, have you met Anton?
Have you met him, my buddy Anton Chism? Come on, he'd be somebody. You guys.
He had this guy, Greg Peralt,
Rick
whatever
Peralt.
his name is.
Hey, you know Rick.
Yeah, Rick.
Right, and he's like, give that to this guy doesn't even exist. You're just making him up.
Yeah.
And then
have you met my good friend Anton?
Yeah.
Like, hey, have you met my good friend Chris? I'm like, oh shoot. Hey Chris, Anton, man, I love it. Yeah.
Well, that's what I do. I'm the connector.
Yes, you are.
I'm
glue.
the connector, so I got to make sure these relationships stick.
Yeah.
We're talking Marana.
Yep.
You've been a business owner in Marana. I know now. 17 years in. Is it like August or September?
18 years in October.
You moved in 18 or
in
08.
April, right? But in April, so we just didn't go live to the public until October.
Yeah, but 17 years.
08.
08. When you moved into Plaza was 08. You moved in after we did.
April of 07. Should have been April.
In this
of 07.
Plaza?
Yeah. April.
No.
Okay.
1,000%.
Okay. How about this? Innovative Signs was born in 08, but I moved into this plaza and started building all of the electronics for Comcast in 07.
Yeah. Okay.
This is a new Sesame Street segment called Calendar with Anton and Clint. Teach you how to use the calendar
properly.
Yeah. I love
Was that a leap year?
Okay,
what the hell?
17 years.
I do that when I'm counting dates. Okay, there was how many leap years in between. I've learned to just trust. Trust
but verify.
Trust
but
your
trust
little Satan box there.
Oh wait.
Yeah, I do that. Yeah, trust. Hey, by the way, just a quick reference. You know who said trust but verify? This is a trick question, by the way.
Abraham Lincoln.
No.
I'm just.
Yeah, no. Trust but verify.
I don't know. But I know I've heard it for a long
what
time.
everybody's answer to that is? It's Ronald Reagan. But Ronald Reagan knew that he was speaking with Gorbachev at some summit, and he got an old Russian proverb, for the lack of a better word, and used it on Gorbachev. And Gorbachev went, you've been reading old school Russian stuff. So there's a little bar question for you that I'll probably
did not know that.
Yeah. Because you ask, and most people are going to say Reagan, because he's the one that first brought it to our attention. But it was an old school Russian thing. Now you talk about deep. What are we calling that? That Sesame Street goes to Soviet Union when it was really the Soviet Union.
Cliff Clavin. Well, that's a Cliff Clavin right there from Cheers.
Well, and
it's
there's another.
Fact, Nami.
I'm just saying. Yeah. I mean,
Mr.
Rogers was enlightening too. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Did you just see the episode with him and CJ Ham? Did you watch any of that? And why weren't you if you didn't? And why weren't you if you weren't? It was a hootenanny.
No,
they went off. They went off for.
I cannot tell a lie. Yeah. I did not watch that.
That's fine.
It was funny. Tammy and I were laughing.
I'll have to go back and watch it now.
We had a lot of fun.
You know what? Anton. He's killing it.
Yeah.
He's just bringing one stellar guest in after the.
Let me interrupt for 1 second. Yeah. Let me just introduce everybody here that might not know. This is Mr. Christopher DeSimone. So he is kind of a big deal, and therefore, I'm not shocked at what you're saying, Clint. Thank you very good. Again, Christopher DeSimone.
DeSimone. Wake up with Christopher DeSimone.
Okay. Christopher
on the Live the Dream Media
I'll introduce
Network.
you to the guy that did the voiceover to introduce the show, and you guys.
Christopher DeSimone.
We still use a little bit. Some of these voices, you guys might close your eyes. Say something, Anton.
Something, Anton.
Listen to the Christopher DeSimone show. Okay, we're getting up there. You guys are still. You guys were riffing though.
Oh yeah.
I'm concerned though we might be drifting too far in the Godfather area and we owe like royalties or something.
Okay, we don't need to. I mean, Marana business. That's where we were almost heading, and then I was wrong.
Actually, one thing I was impressed by in the LTD world you had the video with David talking about how many people have downloaded the app. And I remember, I thought in January we were at 1,200 or 1,300, right? Does that sound right?
It's just stupid.
And now we're over 5,000 app. People are listening to what we do on over 5,000 on the app now.
You'd think I would pay, awesome. Being a numbers guy, I'd pay more attention to the numbers that David sends me, but they keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
That's what we want
to
hear.
He sent something the other day. It was 15,000, and I don't know the reference to that. I'm like, well, that's a big number.
Growth is amazing.
Yeah, it really is.
You know why? When it's in your belly, because then,
well, you're shrinking.
Working on it.
We got a couple more minutes, Chris, with you before you have to bounce out of here.
Yes, sir.
And you know what, Chris may be the hardest working man in media right now. and did you see real quick? I did not send it to you, but our buddies over at 857 used part of your material from yesterday.
Oh, did they?
And then commented on it. I'll send it to you when it's over. You can go check it with them.
So David did a really nice clip of our discussion with Luke Couch. This is the brother of the guy who got hatcheted to death in downtown Tucson a couple of weeks ago. And so,
Luke was here yesterday.
And so Dave just did a new supercut that's going to go out on YouTube right now, and we'll blast that out to a bunch of people.
And we're blasting it nationally because this story needs to be picked up. The pressure needs to be put on the powers that be in Pima County and Tucson.
I love where your heads are at.
Yeah. I mean, somebody's got to hold. They didn't do it, but people have to be held accountable for what's going on here at some point.
I just used those exact same words Monday morning at a meeting with my team. Accountability, right?
Yeah.
People will continue to do what they're doing if they're not held accountable.
Yeah. 100%.
100%. I agree.
Yep, and you've been in law enforcement. If you just keep letting people get away with stuff, it's not like they just stay the same. They get worse and worse most of them.
Well, let's just distill it real quick, if you don't mind. I'm going to jump on. But let's distill it to children, petulant children and children in general.
100%.
If a child knows that you've got a bag of candy in a drawer in your bedroom and they went and take one bag, and this might or may not be a true story with licorice and myself when I was a child, but my mom would buy that big container of licorice.
Yep.
And so I'd go get me a piece of licorice without asking. And so I'd go get another piece without asking. But as a child, you never think, well, the licorice is disappearing and she's going to know she's not eating it. So, of course, until somebody says something to you or addresses that you're doing something incorrectly, you're going to continue to do it. So I don't actually necessarily blame the people that are so ignorant to not know what the real reality or our reality might be. But then that's why we have controls in place, or should have controls in place, with not government overridden, but government assistance to kind of redirect folks in the right direction, right? So back to what you're saying. Yeah, absolutely. You can't expect somebody to change if you don't tell them what they're doing is wrong. But more importantly, Pima County and city of Tucson, people do the same things over and over again, and they're back on the streets before the cops are done with their paperwork.
Yeah. Right.
And then we expect these people to stop defecating in front of small business owners, which I happen to be. So, I mean, it's personal, right? But until, like you said, until there's some accountability from the government entities that are here to assist the people, you can't expect to change. So I'm all aboard.
Yeah,
I'm all aboard.
Hey, Chris, let's put a bow on that because it's your time to bounce. But
yes,
let's put a bow on that. Something that we talk about a lot: local government, Oro Valley, Marana, school boards. The importance of that here for me has always been: be the beacon, be the light, be the alternative. Hey, they're doing it up there. Maybe we can do better, right? So you want to put a bow on the importance of getting involved because especially Oro Valley.
Right.
People have been sitting on their hands far too long. And Marana, if you want to keep it the way it is, you better stay active because the dynamics and demographics are changing.
So Chris got in a little trouble with the town of Marana a couple months ago because I was criticizing them on their downtown project working with people from downtown Tucson. And I got a little pissed off because I know after 17 years of doing this, that 90% of everything down there is wrong, right? It's just wrong. And you do not want that to infiltrate north of Orange Grove into Oro Valley, Marana. It's just wrong. I mean, they have a track record of wrong.
Yeah.
And part of that is you have a critical mass of humans that either they just don't care, right? They just don't care. And what happens is it gets too late and then it gets really bad. right? And so I always tell people, how do you get better? Well, you know what you should do? You should go to your whatever town or whatever you live in. I want you to go to a meeting once every 4 months. Stay for about 38 minutes. Understand how fast your money gets spent, like that. Just pay attention to the process. Go to your school board once every 6 months. See what they do over there with your kids' education. You just can't, you're not going to get spoon-fed by the media. Because right now, the best media in Tucson, other than Live the Dream Media, is TV news, because it leads. Yeah. So they're going after these stories because it gets eyeballs. But those are the stories that are really affecting a lot of people in Tucson, while the people who say they're newspaper folks are either ignoring it or spinning it.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So you can't rely on the media anymore. Right? Go follow 857 Tucson on your Facebook page. He's a crime reporter. He's the best crime reporter in Pima County. Go follow him on your social media, and you'll know exactly how the streets of Tucson are a war zone. Yeah. Right? And then if you pay attention to what we're doing up here, we're going to show you. We've been showing you for 16, 17 years that these things are broken and there's ways of fixing it. We just don't bitch and moan about these things are bad. And you just drive your car. Go drive down Swan right now.
Right.
You go, geez, what the hell's going on here? Right? Well, it happens for a reason. It's always bad public sector leadership and our private sector leadership in Tucson's crap.
Yeah.
That's where you're at.
The private stuff, nobody's advocating anything.
You know? And the crime's pushing up here.
100%.
Right? I talked to our good friend, the Marana police chief, on Wednesday, a week ago. I said, what's the push of crime in the Tucson? And from Tucson, he goes, bus stops. It's the free bus.
Yeah.
Right? If someone rips something off in Ina and Thornydale, we go right to the bus stop in front of Lowe's or the one in front of Pollo Loco. We have a pretty good shot of catching who it is. That's where you're at.
Yep.
It's infecting our really great towns. Now I got to go.
Yeah, he's good. Now that he said all that, he's out the door. Okay. You know what?
Well, he wanted me to put a bow on it.
Yeah,
so.
I like it.
That boat needs a dry cleaning, man. Come on. Hey, I love you. Thank you. See you shortly.
You too. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Anton, great meeting you for the first time.
Take us to break.
Pleasure, sir.
Take us to a quick break, and we'll slide Anton over in the other chair, and we got about 15 more minutes. And then stick around at 10 o'clock. We're going to be bringing State Treasurer Kimberly Yee on. I'm really excited to chat with her.
Top vote getter 2022.
At the last two elections, both of them.
Yep.
In the state, statewide. Yeah. Take us to break, Shay. Thank you.
Looking for the best outdoor patio in Tucson? Look no further than St. Philip's Plaza at the southeast corner of River and Campbell, where you can sip on Tucson's finest collection of whiskey at Union Public House, brunch 7 days a week at Reforma Modern Mexican Mezcal and Tequila, and experience our newest restaurant, Proof, proudly serving house-made pasta and artisanal pizza. Enjoy live music and dine under the stars with Union, Reforma, and Proof. Join us at St. Philip's Plaza.
Hi, this is Sean McCluskey, co-owner and designated broker for Rincon Ventures. If you're a rental owner by choice or by accident and you're looking to hire or change property management companies, consider Rincon Ventures. We employ an aggressive web-based advertising strategy to market your rental. We thoroughly screen prospective tenants and conduct routine property inspections. Our online system gives tenants the ability to pay rent and file maintenance requests instantly over the web. Our owners can use the same system to instantly check on their properties. Call Rincon Ventures at 881-2258 or visit us on the web at rvprop.com.
80% of those that have been incarcerated have been in foster care. So that's crazy to think that 8 out of every 10 inmates, male or female, have touched the foster care system. So if we can break the cycles that cause the foster care system to even be in existence, we're going to change society.
At GAP, I found love.
I found family.
It means hope. It was almost like I had a family away from my own family. At GAP, I found home.
Okay, we are back. That was fun. I really enjoyed doing life with Chris and Anton. They're just two incredible men that I'm so impressed with what they do, and I'm thankful that God sent them into our world. Again, David is on hiatus this week. He's doing some family stuff up in the Queen Creek area. In a few minutes, about 20 minutes or so, we're going to have State Treasurer Kimberly Yee on the Clint Peak Show. I'm really excited. I've never met Kimberly I won't be in person today. She's going to Zoom in. But Ed Honey was a huge fan of Miss Lee. He shared with me numerous times, even not long before his death, that he was really wanted Kimberly to run for governor, and that's a couple of the questions that I'll ask her. I know we've got a couple of candidates in the gubernatorial race already. I assume Ms. Hobbs is planning on running again, so we do have 3 candidates. But the one thing about Ms. Yee is she has been the #1 vote getter the last 2 years in the last 2 election cycles in the state of Arizona, and for me, it's like let's get out of the ladies' lane and let her run. I think her policies are great, and we're going to talk about all the stuff. Yeah, let it flip down. Anton's joining us. I lost Anton and Chris for a moment. These guys, they enjoy each other's company, and they they were out in the green room yucking it up. Welcome back, Anton.
Thank you for having me.
I didn't hear him. Try it again.
Thank you for
there
having
he
me.
is. There he is. There's that voice. There's that
man,
voice.
I look so gray.
Yeah. Well, dude, you are gray.
I know, but man, it just looks so bad on camera.
You know what's funny is, and I tell people when I talk about introduce you to somebody, I've known you since you were younger than both of my children.
Yes.
Isn't that wild?
It's so cool. I didn't have any gray hair when we met.
No, you did not. Well, I don't know that I had any when we met.
Now, I don't recall that, but I
probably didn't. 20, because we've known each other, again, almost 20 years.
Yeah.
I don't think I got gray till about when I hit 60, maybe.
Okay.
I might, maybe a gray hair or 2. That was kind of true in my dad's case, so I'm only going to pattern it after. He didn't have much hair, but what he had was not gray until he got maybe in his 60s.
I've seen some pictures of people in my family, and one of my dad's brothers, my uncles, looks like that old Samuel L. Jackson movie. I forget the movie where he just looks like a Q-tip.
Yeah.
so I know I'm well on my way to white hair, not gray.
Yeah, the reason why I'm clear on the time frame of when you moved in.
You're right.
I just dates and times are kind of my jam. Anything that's got a number. I'm the family historian. Now I have been wrong. There was one thing that I was adamant about a few years ago with my family, and I got to thinking about it, and I'm like, you know what? And I had to call my siblings up and say, you know what? Oopsie. And I was like adamant. I would have bet money on it, but most of them you reference something at a point of time, and I had missed. I'm gonna kind of sound like Roger Clemens when he was talking steroids.
Oh.
I had misremembered something.
Yeah. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
October of 2008.
I remember it.
My first quarter was miserable, and it was right after the real estate market started to crash, and then the economy decided to change.
Yeah, then that was for us in the cookie business, especially. Everything was smooth, like right out of the gate, because we had started in 2005. We'd moved here in May 3rd of 2008, so that'd be 17 years next Saturday.
Yeah.
And so they were doing a lot of real estate stuff. I won't name names, but a lot of large real estate companies were buying, cookies for the new sales and all that stuff from 2005 to 2008. Think about how flush the real estate market was from mid 2005 to mid 2008.
Oh, yeah.
And then it just crashed.
Mm-hmm.
And they had to, basically, my mother and Tammy had to kind of reinvent themselves during that time frame, which is part of what you do when you're an entrepreneur or business owner.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. And I think I know the answer to this, but because I referenced entrepreneur businessman. You're a business person more than you are an entrepreneur. Would you say that? I mean, you have to be entrepreneurial to start your own business, but there's 2 distinct classifications. I'm not a business person. How about that? I'm not. Tammy is.
Okay.
I'm an entrepreneur. I'm more of a dreamer, a visionary. I think about things. And there's no wrong answer.
Right.
But you're an operator more than you are. I mean, you had
a
to come
visionary.
Up with visionary.
Yeah. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I'd rather be in the trenches doing this stuff than figuring out.
Well, it takes both, by the way.
Oh, yeah. I wish I was an inventor, man. I'd come up with, you know.
Well, I'm not even that.
Well, I understand. I said I wish I was, though. I wish I could come up with the telephone and, you know, my name was Bell, right? Like, I mean, oh, by the way, my father's last name is Bell. But I didn't come up with the devices that morphed into these things, you know.
The reason why I mentioned, you mentioned it, we're talking it, and it just hit me there. Dave and I have had these conversations a lot here lately. It's being self-aware of what your strengths are. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I have very, very, very few strengths. I could rattle off 3 or 4, maybe 5 strengths that I feel like I'm really good at.
Sure.
But the rest of the stuff that I could know or be good at, I pretty much suck at all the rest of them. And that's why I'm so dependent on my wife, David, you, Chris, the people that are in Shay, that are in my world, to help me accomplish the things that I can see, but I can't do.
Sure.
Isn't that crazy?
Makes perfect sense.
I mean,
surround yourself with a group of people that are helping you. It's a great idea. I mean, I was taught at a young age, man, get around people older, smarter, and better off or more successful than you if you want to grow.
One of the best lines I ever heard to describe this was Quentin Tarantino, the filmmaker. Right? And I heard him talk, and this was years ago, he said, and he grew up kind of in California, kind of in the industry, even though he wasn't in the industry. He was working at a video store, and he was a geek, though. He really, and he said, I realized that the people I was hanging out with, they were good guys and gals. That's kind of how he phrased it. They were good guys and gals, but they weren't doing anything. And if I wanted to be successful in the film industry, I had to get where people were making movies and doing stuff.
Yeah.
I had to go there. He goes, and I went there. He goes, and I went from being like the top of the class where I was, because I was actually trying to do stuff, and the people around me weren't.
Right.
And he goes, I went to this new group. He goes, and I was at the back of the class. But my times got better.
Yeah.
I got better. I was still the last man on the totem pole, but I was improving. And I always felt like that was the way to assimilate yourself into where the good stuff is happening. If you're the last, but you're in the last of the good guys, if you will, and good gals, well, you're a winner.
Yeah.
What's the guy's name? Brian. What's his name? The white hope, the redheaded dude that played for the Celtics, played for the Bulls. Brian Scarabini or whatever. He goes, I'm closer to LeBron James than you are to me in basketball skill.
I don't remember that, but
he's
funny.
like the last man on the bench. And he still goes, and he's an older guy. He's probably your age.
Oh, geez.
And he goes to Rutgers Park and different places in these outdoor, basketball facilities and just schools people.
Yeah.
Because even though he's last on the bench, the worst player in the NBA when he was playing, he's still way better than everybody else is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Same with size. I realized when I was working with the Angels a few years ago, it's been almost 20 years, maybe 20 years ago, how big those guys are.
Yeah.
Like, the reason they don't look big on TV, people, is because they're all huge. So you don't see a little guy in there. And I was talking to Bruce Ash, who's joining the network in a couple of weeks, and he said his kid was a pretty good ball player, but he was little. And they went somewhere for a tryout, and they didn't really, at a college, they really didn't want to let him on the field. And finally they did. And when it was over, they're like, you know how many people I know that are 6'3", that have the same skill that your son has? Got to be realistic.
Yeah.
So I'm never playing in the NBA. I was never playing in the NBA.
That Rudy story,
Yeah. Well, that was, he was the equipment guy. They let him.
But he was also little.
He was a real tiny guy.
He was a little guy.
And he was good. The very few guys make it. Justin Pedroia is one guy that jumps out at me that is a little dude.
Muggsy Bogues, maybe.
Yeah, Muggsy. What's he, 5'3"?
No, I think he was, you don't make me Google it later.
But
no, I think he might have been just a little taller than that.
I think he's,
like,
Google him.
I'm going to do it. Here we go.
I think he's 5'3". That's one of them numbers things. I'd almost bet you $20 on being 5'3". If you want to take my $20, you're welcome.
I don't want your money.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, say it out loud, David. All right, Anton.
For the people in the back, it says 5'3".
Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was like 99.
That means he's an inch taller than my partner. That is crazy.
Yeah, he was a pretty good basketball player, though, wasn't he?
Great ball handler, extremely quick.
Yeah.
But I mean, even guys like Damon Stoudemire, I mean, he was a littler guy.
Yeah.
You know, Jason Terry was a little taller, but still a littler guy.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some very, very.
And he played point guard at 5'3", and had a pretty good, pretty successful NBA career.
Yeah.
And Magic Johnson on the other side played point guard, and he was 6'8".
Yeah.
And Magic also played center his first year, if you remember, as a rookie in the finals because Jabbar went down. And
they needed bodies.
And he was big enough to play center, but he was a point guard in a power forward's body.
Mm-hmm.
That's why, not to drift too far, we are talking local Marana, but when I look at LeBron James, he is not the GOAT. Anybody that has to tell me they're the GOAT's not the GOAT.
Well,
but the physically gifted individual, he's got to be the most physically talented, physically gifted human being that I've ever seen. That doesn't make him the greatest basketball player of all time.
I don't put him up there as the greatest of all time. But I mean, everybody's entitled to their opinions.
Okay, well, there's your NBA. There's your NBA moment on local Marana. Yeah. Let's come back to Marana. You've been a business operator here. You started before you moved in.
Correct.
In 07. It's a great environment to do business in. We could do better. I mean,
well, yeah,
I'm always saying we could do better. But you know what? Of the region, probably the state. I've done business in Phoenix, and they're good. They're not great. I think the small town mentality. We're all rooting for each other. The neighbor versus neighbor, helping neighbor, has been that driving force. Would you not agree?
Absolutely.
If you have an issue with something in the town of Marana, you just pick up the phone and you call somebody.
I do.
And you get an answer, whether you like it or not. You get an answer, right?
Yeah. I do. I mean, now granted, I might be a little more fortunate with phone number access than the average business operator.
But
in Marana.
but those numbers are available.
But by and large, I mean, the development services team here in Marana will absolutely. They might not give you the answer you want, but they will definitely answer you, and then they'll direct you back to, the Marana code or a building inspector or whatever you're looking for, business license operator. I mean, whatever you need, the town is definitely receptive. Unlike, I will say this, not because forget it. I'm going to say this because I love Marana and because I'm Team Marana.
Mm-hmm.
But I do business in Southern Arizona almost every single day.
Mm-hmm.
And the Marana municipality by itself is by far still the easiest to work with over Oro Valley. Oro Valley would be second, which 10 years ago, that was not the case.
They'd have been near the bottom for sure.
Oro Valley was near the bottom. But let me tell you who's gone to the bottom, who was at the top. The city of Tucson.
Yeah.
City of Tucson. I mean, and I know we're getting off of Marana. I'll make it brief.
You're lifting Marana up as opposed to
the city of Tucson started. I could walk a sign permit in, literally walk in the front door, sit for 5 to 10 minutes, meet with somebody, and walk out of the building in an hour with a permit in my hand. That has changed. Now, granted, they've had some personnel problems. One of their greatest people that ever worked down there in the development services department, not just signs, name was Andrew Connor. He passed away unexpectedly, and seemingly after that, his counterpart, Heather Thrall, who had some major medical situations over the course of the couple of decades almost that I got to work with her, even as recently as last year, she had no real support. A gentleman named Brian Weiss jumped in there to help out Andy, and he's done a great job. But I mean, they have just thinned their workforce and staff. And now, I mean, it can take anywhere from a week and a half to 6 weeks to get a sign permit from them. And Marana's consistent about a week and a half, because Marana's growing, folks. Yeah. Marana's getting bigger. And, oh, by the way, those people out there are busy, which is great. But, I mean, even waiting a week to get a permit is reasonable.
Yeah.
Pima County, on the other hand, Pima County has actually surpassed the city of Tucson and has made it easier to get a permit from Pima County.
You know why? Change of leadership.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Jan Lesher, shouting Jan out right now.
Yeah, Jan,
we saw Jan,
I worked with Jan. I love Jan. She's a great person.
We saw her last Thursday, spent a lot of time with her. She's an awesome human being.
Yeah.
And part of the process was eliminating the gridlock because here's the thing that always drives me nuts. We pay the freight. What I mean when I say that is businesses, especially small businesses, pay the freight for everything that's being done.
Absolutely.
We're the ones that create the tax base. We're the ones collecting the tax base.
Yep.
We're the ones that send it to the state, the county, the feds.
Right.
Right. It's we're the tax collectors. We're the bill collectors.
Yep.
And if you hey, look, there has to be regulations, there has to be rules, there has to be policies and procedures in place. I'm not suggesting just the Wild West and let's go.
Right.
But they should be simplified, they should be fair, and they should be administered evenly for everybody. And I won't quote who it was, I remember it clearly, someone tell me that it just depended on who your inspector was. And I'm like,
so I can say, being a former military person, that the standard, there's only one standard, period.
Yep.
Period.
Yep.
The problem is the private sector, meaning non-military, including the government, but the non-military individuals get hired for a job, but because of thinning, micromanaging is a terrible thing. Yeah. I think it's terrible, but there's a place. And oversight is definitely it's a useful tool operated
Trust
correctly.
and verify, right back to it, baby.
Right. You don't have to micromanage somebody to have oversight. Yeah. And the oversight's purpose should be to maintain a standard, whatever that standard is that's set. But you made a comment very specifically about depending on what inspector.
Yeah.
I will say my own experience, without naming municipalities, I can work in a signed permit capacity in certain municipalities, and depending on the inspector, I will either have somebody physically come out, somebody that tells me to text them photographs, or a Skype meeting.
Yeah.
Which, oh, by the way, the Skype meeting and in person is great.
Yeah.
A photograph, I own a sign company with graphic designers. I can make a photograph do all kinds of fun stuff. Yeah. Now, granted, my integrity level is much higher than that. I would never do that. But
it could happen.
But it could happen. And if I can do that, I mean, I'm no insult to all the new budding graphic designers or aspiring graphic designers or people that tinker. But there's all kinds of freeware softwares out there now that are not graphic design softwares from an professional industry standpoint, but definitely softwares that people can use to administer, to alter photographs or make ads or other things that, I mean, there's even a free one called, that used to be called GIMP New that we used many years ago just to see how it worked versus, the Adobe and Corel products. Yeah. But my point is, anybody can doctor a photograph today. I mean, if you have a smartphone, you can doctor a photograph. And then if an inspector is willing to accept said photograph, that to me that's a problem. That's not maintaining a standard.
Full disclosure, I have an Easter picture up that I built. It looks great. And the person that was in, one of the persons in the picture said, "This is the best Photoshop." I said, "I'll just cut myself in later."
Yeah. So I mean, but again, there's only one standard, whatever that standard is. And we know that rules, policies, et cetera, are usually have somebody's name attached to it for an infraction that they want to correct or not replicate. But we should from the county government, let's back up, from the federal government, from the presidency all the way down to the local town, treasurer, the standard should be set. It should be in black and white, and then we should just maintain it. The police department should go out and maintain a standard, regardless of whose feelings might get hurt or if this person, they had a rough childhood. Or I mean, we need to stop making excuses as a society, and if we want to see better results, we just need to work together.
Preach. You see why I love hanging out with this guy? Hey, Anton, we're going to have to wrap it. I thank you so much for making a cameo.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
I think we kind of got Chris off guard a little bit.
Well, and walking in at the perfect time where it says, how do we get more people in the room? And then here I come walking in the room, and that wasn't scripted or planned, folks. That was just great.
By the way, he almost got busted before we started, and I've never seen you move as fast to get out of the room.
Oh yeah,
very
I heard
good
the door
move.
Open up, and truth be told, if you're looking at me, I'm a few pounds lighter than I once was recently. So I was able to move quickly and freely. And
I appreciate that.
I got out of the building before.
I appreciate that. Hey, love you, man.
I love you.
Hey, guys, local Marana, we love you guys. We're not here by accident. I mean, I sleep in Oro Valley, but we chose to be here 20 years ago when we started, and we were down the street. But so Copper Creek Cookies is celebrating its 20th year in business. We started in 05. That is very cool.
How cool
My
is
mom
that?
had a great idea, didn't she?
What a cool and special
Scott
person.
Robb, my dear friend, says it's kind of like the local barbershop. Everything happens through the cookie company, and the reality is it does. And so that is how we got 20 years. The town of Marana and Oro Valley to a lesser degree, but Marana as a community rallied around the cookie company, and here we are 20 years later.
Yeah.
I'll have to get Tammy on. We'll talk about some of that someday.
That'll be fun.
Guys, it's such a pleasure to do life in Marana and Oro Valley. We appreciate you. Stick around. In about 3 to 5 minutes, I will have Miss Kimberly Yee, State Treasurer of the state of Arizona, on. We're going to be talking all things finance. Appreciate you guys. Go make a great day. Be nice to each other. It's just not that hard if you try. Thank you, Shay.